Right now, in this very moment, there is a version of your life that exists only in your imagination. A version where you wake up with purpose. Where you follow through on your promises to yourself. Where you don't shrink in rooms that were built for you. Where you stop standing in your own way and finally, start becoming who you have always known yourself to be. And here is what most people will never tell you, that version of your life is not far away. It is not locked behind talent you don't have, time you haven't found, or luck you haven't been given. That version of your life is locked behind you. Behind your fears. Behind your patterns. Behind the invisible wall you have spent years quietly building without even knowing it. Today, we are going to talk about a book that does something extraordinary. It doesn't just inspire you. It doesn't just pump you up for 10 minutes and then fade. It reaches into the deepest, most honest part of you and asks a question most people are too afraid to sit with. What if the thing that has been holding you back all this time is you? The book is called The Mountain Is You, Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery by Brianna Widest. And if there is one book you engage with this year, let it be this one. Because this is not a book about motivation. This is a book about truth. About understanding why smart, talented, capable people keep repeating the same cycles, keep arriving at the same dead ends, keep destroying the very things they say they want. This is a book about the mountain you have built inside yourself, and how to climb it. We are going to go through this book chapter by chapter. We are going to sit with the hard parts. We are going to walk away with real tools, real clarity, and a real understanding of what has been keeping you from the life you deserve. So take a breath. Get comfortable. And let's begin. Before we dive in, if this kind of content speaks to you, if you are someone who is serious about growth, about understanding yourself, about building a life that actually fits who you are, then hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a new video. And if you know someone who needs to hear this today, share this with them. You might be handing someone the exact thing they have been searching for. Now, let's go. Chapter 1. The Mountain Is You. Let's start with the core idea that powers this entire book. There is a gap. You feel it. Most people feel it. It is the space between where you are right now and where you know you could be. And if you are honest with yourself, you will admit that the biggest obstacle in that gap is not your circumstances. It is not the economy, or the timing, or the people around you. It is you. Brianna Widest opens with a truth that is both uncomfortable and deeply liberating. Self-sabotage is almost always at work when there is a persistent gap between who you are and who you want to become. And the reason it keeps happening is not because you are broken, lazy, or weak. It is because the self-sabotage is serving a purpose. Think about that for a moment. Your self-sabotage is not random destruction. It is not senseless chaos. It is a coping mechanism. It is the way a part of you has learned to protect itself from something it is afraid of. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists who ever lived, experienced this himself as a child. He disliked school intensely. One day, he fell and hit his head. And a thought crossed his mind, maybe now I won't have to go back. Shortly after, he began experiencing fainting spells, uncontrollable, mysterious, deeply disruptive. It was only much later that he understood what had happened. His unconscious mind had made a connection. If he became ill, he could escape the place that caused him pain. His body began to cooperate with that unconscious desire. Jung later wrote that all neuroses are a substitute for legitimate suffering. In other words, we create symptoms to avoid dealing directly with the things that truly hurt us. This is the foundation of self-sabotage. You don't destroy what you love because you hate yourself. You destroy it because some part of you is terrified of what it would mean to actually have it. Maybe success feels dangerous because you were raised to believe that people with money are corrupt. Maybe love feels unsafe because the last time you opened your heart, it was crushed completely. Maybe finishing the book, or launching the business, or speaking up in the room is so frightening that your mind finds 100 clever reasons to delay, procrastinate, and ultimately abandon it, before it can abandon you first. This is your mountain. Not a mountain made of stone. A mountain made of fear, old stories, unhealed wounds, and outdated beliefs. And the book makes something absolutely clear: the only path forward is through it. The mountain is not your enemy. The mountain is the very thing that will shape you into who you need to become. But you first have to be honest enough to see it for what it is. Brianna Widest asks you to do something most people resist with everything they have: get out of denial. Stop rationalizing. Stop blaming. Stop using positive affirmations to plaster over a truth you already know deep down. She suggests something radical in its simplicity: take a piece of paper and write down everything you are not happy with. Every debt. Every pattern. Every relationship that diminishes you. Every goal you have abandoned. Look at the list honestly. Not to shame yourself. Not to spiral. But to finally, clearly, see what is actually there. Because what you are unwilling to name, you are unable to change. The path begins right where you are. Not when you are ready. Not when the conditions are perfect. Not when you have figured it all out. Right here. Right now. At the foot of the mountain you have built. Chapter TWO, Navigating the Obstacles. Now that you have named your mountain, the next question is, what exactly is it made of? This chapter goes deep into the specific ways self-sabotage shows up, and many of them will feel uncomfortably familiar. The first material in your mountain is irrational fear. Not obvious fear. Not the kind that announces itself loudly. But the quiet, shape-shifting kind that disguises itself as something else. You are afraid of commitment, so you find every possible flaw in every possible partner. You are afraid of failure, so you never quite finish anything long enough to fail. You are afraid of being seen, so you stay just slightly under the radar your entire life. Widest explains that the fears we act out on the surface are almost always representations of deeper, more legitimate fears we cannot bring ourselves to directly face. We project those feelings onto things that are less threatening, less real, easier to dismiss, and in doing so, we never address the actual wound. The second material is negative unconscious associations. Your self-concept, the way you see yourself, was built over years and years of input. What your parents believed. What your peers reflected back to you. What the world told you about people like you. And your brain, in its powerful and ruthless efficiency, constantly works to confirm whatever you already believe about yourself. If deep down you believe that people who become financially successful are selfish, corrupt, or different from you, your brain will resist every financial opportunity that crosses your path. Not because the opportunity is bad. Because success has been quietly coded in your mind as something that belongs to someone else. Something that would make you someone you were taught to look down on. You don't overcome this by trying harder. You overcome it by questioning the belief itself. By asking, where did I learn this? Is it actually true? Is it serving me? The third material is unfamiliarity. This is something most people never talk about. Even good change is uncomfortable. Even the life you say you want will feel wrong at first, not because it is wrong, but because it is new. Gay Hendricks calls this our upper limit, the invisible ceiling we have set on how much happiness, success, and love we believe we are allowed to have. And every time life tries to push us beyond that ceiling, we find a way to bring ourselves back down to what feels familiar. You meet someone wonderful and start picking fights. You land a great opportunity and suddenly become overwhelmed by self-doubt. You start getting healthy and find reasons to fall back into old habits. This is not weakness. This is your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do: seek the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. The way through is not to force yourself to be comfortable. It is to acknowledge what is happening, to say, I know this feels wrong because it is new, not because it is bad, and to stay the course long enough for the new to become familiar. And finally, there are belief systems. The stories you tell yourself about who you are and what is possible for you. Maybe you have gone through most of your life believing that anxiety is simply part of your personality, not a response to unaddressed pain. Maybe you have never questioned whether the limits placed on you as a child actually reflect your true capacity. Maybe you have confused the comfort of smallness with the safety of wisdom. Your beliefs are not your identity. They are inherited conclusions. And they can be changed. Chapter 3, The Emotional Life. Here we arrive at something that changes everything. Your emotions are not obstacles to your growth. They are the map. Brianna Widest makes a profound distinction in this chapter. Most people treat their emotions as problems to manage, suppress, or overcome. We talk about controlling our feelings, not letting things bother us, keeping it together. But Widest argues that this approach is exactly backwards. The emotions we suppress do not disappear. They go underground. And from underground, they run our lives. Your triggers, the things that provoke a response in you that seems disproportionate to the situation, are not weaknesses. They are road signs. Every time something provokes an outsized reaction in you, it is pointing directly at an unhealed wound, an unmet need, an old story that still has power over you. Someone cancels plans and you spiral into believing you are unimportant. Your boss gives mild feedback and you feel crushed. A friend achieves something you want and you are suddenly consumed by shame. These are not irrational responses. They are messages. And if you learn to read them instead of suppress them, they will guide you toward exactly what needs to be healed. The practice Widest recommends is not comfortable, but it is transformative. The next time you are triggered, instead of reacting or retreating, pause. Ask yourself, what is the oldest version of this feeling I can remember? Where did you first learn that love was conditional, that you had to earn your place, that your voice did not matter? The emotion in the present is almost always an echo of something much older. When you trace it back to its source, you take back enormous amounts of power. This chapter also introduces one of the most important concepts in the book, emotional intelligence. Not as a personality trait you either have or you don't, but as a skill that can be developed, practiced, and deepened. Emotional intelligence means you are able to feel your feelings fully without becoming them. It means you can sit in discomfort without it controlling you. It means you recognize that there is a difference between I feel angry and I am angry. One is a temporary state you can move through. The other is an identity that imprisons you. People with high emotional intelligence do not avoid difficult conversations. They have them more skillfully. They do not suppress disappointment. They use it as information. They do not crumble under criticism. They sift through it for what is useful and release the rest. And here is the practical reality. Your emotional intelligence will determine the quality of every relationship, every opportunity, and every version of yourself you are ever able to inhabit. It is not soft. It is not secondary. It is foundational. Chapter 4, Releasing the Past. Imagine you are climbing a mountain. You are carrying a backpack. And in that backpack are heavy stones. Each stone has a name written on it. Regret, resentment, grief, shame, the version of yourself you could not forgive, the person who hurt you that you never fully let go. You are trying to climb. But the weight is enormous. And no matter how determined you are, the backpack is pulling you down. You cannot build a new life while dragging the weight of an unlived one. This is what Chapter 4 is about. And it begins with a distinction that many people struggle to make. Releasing the past is not the same as forgetting it. It is not pretending it did not happen. It is not invalidating your pain or minimizing what you went through. It is simply changing your relationship with it. When we hold on to the past, when we replay the same stories, carry the same resentments, revisit the same wounds, we are not being loyal to our experience. We are being imprisoned by it. And the most devastating part is that the person we are punishing with that imprisonment is ourselves. Widest writes about forgiveness in a way that strips away all the cultural confusion around the word. Forgiveness is not absolution. It is not saying what happened was acceptable. It is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is simply the decision to stop letting what was done to you continue to define what you do to yourself. You forgive not for them. You forgive because you deserve to be free. There is also something profound here about the neuroscience of memory. Every time you recall a painful memory, your brain replays the chemical experience of it. You do not just remember the event, you re-feel it, in your body, in real time. But here is what science has also discovered. If you recall a memory in a new emotional state, with acceptance instead of anger, with compassion instead of shame, you can actually begin to change the way it is stored. You can, literally, rewire the emotional charge of the past. This does not happen overnight. But it does happen. And it is one of the most extraordinary things a human being is capable of. Widest offers several practical ways to begin this process. Write the story that is still hurting you, all of it, without editing, without softening. Then look for the hidden seed of growth inside it. What did it teach you? What strength did it reveal? What boundary did it force you to finally establish? What did it make clear that you needed but would never have found another way? Pain is not random. It is often the harshest and most effective teacher. And when you find the lesson, when you genuinely extract something real from what you went through, the memory begins to shift from something that happened to you into something that happened for you. That shift does not erase the wound, but it liberates you from it. We are right in the middle of this conversation, and I want to pause for just a moment. If this content is resonating with you, if any of what we are discussing today is hitting somewhere deep, I want you to know that this channel exists for exactly this reason. To go beyond surface-level motivation and actually get into the real work of changing your life. Hit like on this video right now if you are getting value. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you turn on that notification bell so you never miss when we drop something new. Your next breakthrough might be in the very next video. Okay, let's keep going. Chapter 5, The Healing Journey. Here is something nobody tells you when you decide to change your life. The process is not linear. You will have breakthroughs followed by setbacks. You will have weeks where everything feels clear, followed by days where the old patterns come rushing back. You will wonder if you are actually changing, or if you are just cycling through the same spiral at a slightly higher altitude. This is normal. This is healing. And Brianna Widest walks through what this process actually looks like, not the sanitized, Instagram-friendly version, but the real thing. She identifies something she calls the process of deep psychological excavation. It involves 5 essential stages. First, you pinpoint the traumatic event or belief at the root of the pattern. Then you release the unprocessed emotions around it, not suppress, not manage, but genuinely feel and move through them. Then you find healthier ways to meet the needs that were being served by the old coping mechanism. Then you rebuild your self-image. And finally, you develop the emotional intelligence and resilience to sustain the new way of being. This is not a weekend workshop. This is a practice. And one of the most important things Widest emphasizes is this: your nervous system heals slowly. The body holds trauma in a way that the mind often cannot access through thinking alone. Some healing happens in the body, through movement, through breath, through slowly accumulating evidence that you are safe, that you are worthy, that the old story no longer applies. She also talks about something that many people in the middle of their healing journey resist deeply: the need to grieve. To actually mourn the old version of yourself. The person who survived with those coping mechanisms. The child who had to become so small to stay safe. The version of you that tried so hard with the tools you had at the time. There is something that must be acknowledged there. A tenderness that must be extended to the earlier version of yourself before you can fully step into the new one. You are not abandoning your past self when you grow. You are honoring them, by finally becoming the person they were always trying to protect. The healing journey also demands that you develop new principles to live by. Not just goals, principles. Goals are things you want to achieve. Principles are the rules by which you conduct yourself regardless of how you feel on any given day. Because inspiration fades. Motivation is unreliable. The mornings when you least feel like doing the work are exactly the mornings when the work matters most. And it is your principles, the commitments you have made to yourself about who you are and how you behave, that carry you through those mornings. Widest offers a powerful question to help you identify your principles. What do you genuinely value? What experiences do you want your daily life to contain? What would you not compromise on, even when it is hard? Your principles are your compass. They are not about being perfect. They are about knowing, even in the fog, which direction is forward. Chapter 6, Building Your Future Self. Now we arrive at what is perhaps the most energizing part of the book, and also the most practical. You have done the inner excavation. You have begun to understand your patterns, challenge your beliefs, release the grip of the past. And now the question becomes, what do you actually build in its place? This chapter is about becoming the architect of your own life. Not in a vague, aspirational way. In a specific, daily, habitual way. Brianna Widest introduces a concept that sounds simple but has enormous power: living from your future self backwards. Instead of asking, "What can I do today?" you ask, "Who do I need to become, and what would that person do today?" Your future self has already made the decisions you keep putting off. Already speaks with the confidence you are still waiting to find. Already has the relationship with their body, their work, their relationships, their purpose that you are still only imagining. And the path to becoming that person is not one dramatic transformation. It is 10,000 small, ordinary choices, made consistently, over time. She talks about the critical difference between goals and identity. Most people set goals. They say, "I want to exercise more, I want to write a book, I want to become financially stable." But goals are fragile. They depend on motivation, which is inconsistent. What is not fragile is identity. When you make the shift from "I am trying to be healthier" to "I am someone who takes care of their body," the behavior changes not because you are more disciplined but because the behavior is now an expression of who you are, not an effort to become something you are not yet. This identity-based approach to change is one of the most powerful tools in the book. Every action you take is a vote cast for a particular kind of person. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you strengthen the belief that you are someone who does what they say. Every time you break the commitment, you reinforce the story that you cannot be trusted to show up for yourself. Small wins matter enormously here. Not because they produce enormous results on their own, but because of what they tell your brain about who you are. Widest also addresses something that people on a growth journey often overlook: your environment. You are not a self-contained unit. You are deeply shaped by the people around you, the media you consume, the physical spaces you inhabit, the conversations you participate in. If you are trying to grow and change while surrounded by cynicism, negativity, and smallness, you are fighting an uphill battle every single day. This does not mean abandoning people you love. But it does mean being honest about which relationships elevate you and which ones quietly drain you. It means curating your inputs, what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, with the same intentionality you would bring to curating your food if you were trying to nourish your body. Your environment is not neutral. It is either working for you or against you. Choose consciously. Chapter 7, From Self-Sabotage to Self-Mastery. We have arrived at the summit. Not the end of the journey. There is no end to this kind of journey. But the place where you stand and finally see clearly what the entire climb has been building toward. Self-mastery. Widest is careful to define what this actually means, because it is not what most people think. Self-mastery is not about becoming emotionless. It is not about having no difficult days. It is not about achieving some perfect state of control where nothing ever rattles you. Self-mastery is the ability to observe yourself, your thoughts, your patterns, your emotional responses, without being enslaved by them. It is the capacity to choose your behavior even when your feelings are pulling you in another direction. It is the discipline to do what you have committed to doing, especially on the days when you do not feel like it. The Buddhists have a concept that Widest draws on here, the idea that true mental freedom is not about controlling the mind but about observing it. You sit. You breathe. You watch thoughts arise and pass without attaching to them. You do not obey every feeling. You witness it. You question it. And then you choose. This is the practice of emotional mastery. And it begins with a fundamental reorientation. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. Widest also draws a powerful distinction between suppressing emotions and controlling them. Suppression is unconscious. It is when you push feelings down without acknowledging them, and they erupt later in ways that harm you and the people around you. Control is conscious. It is when you are fully aware of what you feel, you honor it, but you choose deliberately how to act. Emotions are temporary. Behaviors are permanent. You are always responsible for what you choose to do with what you feel. Moving from self-sabotage to self-mastery also requires learning to trust yourself again. For many people who have spent years caught in cycles of broken promises to themselves, the habit they started and stopped, the plan they made and abandoned, the goal they set and then quietly let die, the relationship with the self is genuinely damaged. Rebuilding that trust is not complicated, but it is demanding. It requires you to start making small commitments to yourself and keeping them. Not grand declarations. Not sweeping vows. Small, concrete, achievable commitments. And then following through. And then doing it again. And again. And again. Over time, your brain receives a new message: I can be trusted. When I say I will do something, I do it. I am someone who shows up for myself. That shift, from someone who knows what they should do to someone who actually does it, is the transformation the entire book has been building toward. And then there is the question of inner peace, which Widest argues is not a destination you arrive at once and stay in forever. It is a state you learn to return to. A place inside you that exists beneath the noise of the mind, beneath the anxiety, the planning, the worrying, the comparing. A place that Albert Camus captured when he wrote, "In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer." You have that invincible summer inside you. You always have. It did not disappear because of what you went through. It was buried beneath the weight of it. And the entire work of this book, the self-awareness, the emotional intelligence, the healing, the identity shifts, the new habits and principles, all of it is in service of one thing: finding your way back to yourself. The deeper patterns, going further into chapter 2. Let's go even deeper into the second chapter, because this is where most people either truly wake up, or quietly close the book and return to their comfortable explanations for why their life is the way it is. Widest identifies something she calls self-sabotage from belief systems. And this is different from simply having low self-esteem. It is more structural than that. It is the entire architecture of assumptions you have built your life on, assumptions so old and so deeply embedded that you no longer see them as assumptions at all. You see them as reality. Maybe you believe, somewhere beneath the surface, that you are simply not the kind of person who succeeds. Not because anyone ever told you that directly, but because of the accumulation of 1,000 small moments that seem to confirm it. The teacher who overlooked you. The parent who compared you unfavorably. The early failure that you turned into a verdict instead of a lesson. Widest points to something psychologists call confirmation bias, the brain's relentless tendency to seek out and prioritize information that confirms what it already believes. Once your brain has decided something about you, it becomes a filter. Every experience gets sorted through that filter. The things that contradict the belief get minimized, explained away, or simply not noticed. The things that confirm it get amplified. This is why you can receive 10 compliments and 1 criticism and spend the rest of the day thinking about the criticism. It is not because you are weak or irrational. It is because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, gathering evidence for what it already believes is true. The only way to change this is to consciously and deliberately introduce new evidence. To start noticing the moments that contradict the old story. To sit with compliments long enough that they actually register. To celebrate small wins with enough intention that your brain starts to update its files. This is slow work. It feels almost artificially deliberate at first, like you are forcing yourself to see something that does not feel natural. But that discomfort is not a sign that you are lying to yourself. It is a sign that you are fighting a deeply grooved neural pathway. And eventually, with enough repetition, the new path becomes the default one. Understanding your needs, the hidden root of every pattern. Here is something that gets to the very core of everything Brianna Widest is trying to help you understand in this book. Every pattern you keep repeating, every relationship that ends the same way, every habit you cannot break, every goal that you keep approaching and then retreating from, has a hidden need at its center. A need that the pattern is attempting, however clumsily, to meet. When you keep choosing emotionally unavailable partners, the hidden need might be for the feeling of safety that comes with distance, because real intimacy has historically meant pain. When you keep procrastinating, the hidden need might be to protect your sense of identity as someone with potential, because as long as you have not truly tried, you have not truly failed. When you keep overspending, the hidden need might be for a momentary sense of abundance in a life that feels chronically scarce. None of these needs are wrong. None of them are shameful. They are deeply human. The problem is not the need itself. The problem is the strategy being used to meet it, a strategy that creates more of exactly what it is trying to avoid. Widest's invitation is to get to the need. To ask, not just why am I doing this, but what is this behavior trying to give me? And then to find a healthier, more sustainable way to meet that same need. If the need is safety, what would actually create safety in your life? If the need is abundance, what practices would genuinely cultivate a feeling of having enough? If the need is to feel loved, what does receiving love actually look like for you, and are you letting it in when it shows up? This is not about fixing yourself. It is about understanding yourself clearly enough to stop working against your own deepest desires. The practice of self-awareness, living from the inside out. One of the most repeated themes throughout the mountain is the absolutely central importance of self-awareness. Not as an occasional check-in, but as a daily, living practice. Most people move through their days on autopilot. They react rather than respond. They are shaped by their environment rather than intentionally shaping it. They drift through their decisions rather than making them consciously. And they wonder why life keeps delivering the same results. Self-awareness is the interruption of that autopilot. It is the practice of bringing your own inner life into focus, not to judge it or fix it in that moment, but simply to see it. To know what you are feeling, why you are feeling it, what story you are telling yourself, and whether that story is actually serving you. Widest suggests journaling as one of the most powerful tools available for this. Not journaling as a record of events, but journaling as a conversation with yourself. Asking the deep, uncomfortable questions and then sitting with whatever comes up. What am I avoiding right now? What am I afraid of losing? What would I do differently if I trusted myself completely? What belief is driving the decision I am about to make? The answers that emerge from this kind of honest self-inquiry are often surprising. We carry so much more wisdom than we give ourselves credit for. The truth of where we are, what we need, and what we are afraid of is usually already inside us, waiting for us to be quiet enough and honest enough to hear it. Awareness does not automatically solve the problem, but it makes the problem visible. And a visible problem can be worked with. An invisible problem runs you. Becoming your own safe place. There is one more idea from this book that I want to make sure we sit with before we reach the end, because it is perhaps the most quietly powerful idea in the entire text. Brianna Widest talks about the concept of becoming your own safe place. Of learning to be, for yourself, the steady, consistent, compassionate presence that so many of us have spent our whole lives looking for in other people. Most of us were not taught how to do this. We were taught to look outward for validation, for comfort, for a sense of our own worth. And when that outward source of safety disappeared, when the relationship ended, when the approval was withdrawn, when the structure we depended on collapsed, we felt untethered. Because we had never learned how to be our own anchor. Self-mastery, as Widest describes it, is in many ways the process of becoming that anchor. Of developing such a deep and genuine relationship with yourself, your values, your principles, your capacity to witness your own pain without being destroyed by it, that you no longer need the world to be a certain way in order to feel okay. This is not the same as not caring. It is not cold, or detached, or self-contained in an unhealthy way. It is the opposite. It is the kind of deep inner security that actually allows you to love more fully, connect more openly, and take more genuine risks, because you are no longer terrified that losing any particular thing will undo you completely. When you are your own safe place, you can be present with other people in a way that is not driven by need. You can love without possessiveness, work without desperation, pursue goals without the fear that failing will destroy you. This is what the summit looks like. Not a perfect life. Not an absence of difficulty. But a genuine, and deeply rooted relationship with yourself, from which everything else can grow. We have walked through a mountain together today. We have talked about the ways we stand in our own way, the unconscious fears, the inherited beliefs, the protective patterns that once kept us safe and now keep us small. We have talked about how to read our emotions as maps rather than fighting them as enemies. We have talked about what it actually looks like to release the past, build a new identity, and step into the full, uncompromising, deeply alive version of yourself that has been waiting for you all along. If you take nothing else from today, take this. The mountain in front of you is not your punishment. It is your invitation. Every pattern you have tried to break, every goal you have abandoned, every time you have felt like you were your own worst enemy, none of that was evidence that you cannot change. All of it was evidence of how long you have been carrying something that was never yours to carry alone. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too old, too damaged, or too far gone. You are at the foot of your mountain, and you have just been handed a map. Brianna Widest ends her book with a quiet and powerful truth. In the end, it is not the mountain that you must master, but yourself. The mountain will change. The circumstances will change. The challenges will evolve. But the person you become in the process of climbing, that person stays with you. That person is what all of this was building toward. Start climbing. If this video moved something in you today, if it gave you even one idea, one question, one shift in perspective, then let's keep this going. Subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. We cover books, ideas, and conversations that go deep, because surface-level inspiration is not enough, and you deserve more than that. If you found real value here, like this video, it helps more people find this content and it means more than you know. And if you know someone who is in the middle of their own mountain right now, someone who is stuck, struggling, or searching for a way forward, share this video with them. You might be giving them exactly what they needed today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your growth seriously. This is just the beginning. See you in the next one.